All right, guys. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, April 21st. Volatility did spread over from the commodity area to equities today. I think it kind of spooked the market a little bit, and I think that's the main question that I have up here on the theme of the day is will the commodity moves or has it moved over to affect equities? We talked about this quite a bit in last night's video, and I hope that helped people a bit because my view is that it does spread over a little bit to equities. But and keep in mind, I'm not going to talk about this USO mess because it's gotten way too much media attention. I'll give you my opinion again, and then I'll move on from this subject. But the USO stuff is kind of just an interesting story to watch, and I know the media likes it, but that's not what the issue is. That's not why crude is falling like it is. Crude is falling like it is because of supply and demand issues. So yes, there's an interesting story going on with the USO product and about what they're doing, and half the people that you see on TV are not even they're not even familiar with the product, and they haven't even looked at the website to see what they're holding. I think more people have kind of figured that out today, but that's not what the root cause of the problem is. The root cause of the problem is that there's so much supply out there and there's no demand. So that is causing a major hiccup in the crude market. And we're not only so yesterday it was mainly, and I got a lot of charts to go over, so there's plenty of levels that we'll talk about. But if you saw what happened in copper, which did come back today, by the way, but copper was down 3%, and you could see just a lot of these areas where you do need global demand for. They're starting to kind of break down a bit. Now, it's nice to see this come back from the lows because I think copper was down about 7%, but you know, it's kind of this is a little bit of common sense, right? The longer that areas stay shut, people cannot consume as much. People are not going to go on planes. They're not going to go to hotels. They're not going to spend money at Starbucks, at the hotel, and at the airport, right? So we all know this, right? I mean, this is not a leap of faith, but you have to kind of come back to this while the government, while the SEC is trying to stimulate as much as possible and provide loans. The more that the major issue here is that they're shutting down the country. So I look forward to see when they're going to start to reopen this. I mean, it is April 21st, and not talking about like the health risk and so forth because I don't want to get into that, but we're traders, so we kind of have to analyze this as it happens. But the longer that they keep the country closed in other countries around the globe, I would think that you're going to see stocks begin to kind of move back to the downside because eventually, how much more can they stimulate, right? I don't think that they could do this forever. This is a temporary, as they're stimulating and increasing the balance sheet of the Fed, they're doing this as a substitute for growth. So I don't have the answer to that, and that's why we look at price, right, to figure out what is going on in this market. Because just because I have a hunch and have an opinion on what this is going on, I could be wrong, and the market always is two steps in front of everybody. And we'll talk about Netflix too, because obviously Netflix had great numbers, but the stock has given back the gains. Why? Because everybody knows that Netflix is going to have a great quarter. I mean, some person on Twitter told me, "Oh, they're going to miss earnings." Really? Do you really think that they're going to miss earnings with everybody locked down? I think more. So the issue is that it's priced in, right? And that's why you don't see the stock moving much here after hours, is because everybody knows that everybody's been using Netflix like crazy. I don't even understand why somebody would argue with me about that. Oh, they're going to get crushed on earnings. Uh, so I thought I thought that was going to be difficult considering, people all over the world are using Netflix because they can't do much else right now. So, and there's a reason why it has broken out to the upside. Here's our earnings trade, by the way. I think this is going to come into play a lot. I think names, companies are not going to provide guidance. So here was my earnings trade, selling premium. They were implying a 13% move in Netflix, which is way over what they normally are looking for. Here's the earnings history. They normally, you could see, they haven't moved 13% in the last how many quarters I've got on the screen here. And again, I'm looking at this column, by the way, price change, right, which is the most important thing, how the stock reacts. Who cares about the numbers? I want to know what the stock does. Down 3.6%, but you could see there hasn't been one quarter where it's moved 13%. So what did we do? We sold premium, right? I sold the call spread, I sold the put spread, right? And basically collecting money for this. So, and I think that's the way I'll be playing. I don't know, for sure if this is how most names are going to go for earnings, but I'll be selling premium. If they're going to price out options like that, a 13% move, much more than they and how they normally move, then I'll be selling premium. So that's Netflix, and again, going back to how this overall market is going to move, that's why I follow price, even though I am very concerned that the longer I mean, it is April 21st, and we don't even have a timeline of how we're going to reopen, which I think is very concerning. All right, so let's look at the levels to watch in the S&P. So we said this last night. I also, in my morning note to members, I detailed levels, and I said, here we go. We're basically at 2731. That's everything that we detailed this morning. Well, I will tell you more that we detailed here, but we talked about a couple levels to watch. One on the 5 minute. I'll let this fill in here, but you could see that there's another VPOC taken out there, right? So again, virgin point of control, VPOC, is where a lot of buyers and sellers have previously met up. These are important because once you start trading outside of range, price will move to these like a magnet, right? It will look for places where buyers and sellers have previously met up. Also on the 1 hour, the other level that we had mentioned was bottom of value on the 1 hour, right? So I mean, look at how this worked. We went right to the bottom of value. We tried to bounce a couple times, and this is on the 1 hour chart, so every bar is an hour. But every time we try to bounce here off the bottom of value, the bounces kind of get sold. So next level to watch. So now we begin to say, what's going to transpire from here? So this is a better place. If you're looking to buy the dip, you've got a nice support level. But if you break support, then you have to readjust. And that's 2681 would be the next downside level to watch in S&P futures. A couple other things that were very notable on the tape today. So that's kind of mapping it out. And also, if we just shoot back to this daily chart, we're at support, which I think is a nice check back, right? A lot of people are drawing trend lines and saying, oh, this can fall. But right now we've just fallen basically into support. We're checking back to the top of value, to the top of April value. So I need more information. We'll see if it holds, right? I come away with a lot of big trades? Did I play the dip here? I did a little bit for day trades, but I'm not really wearing a lot of risk because I just don't like how this overall tape is looking, considering what commodities are doing. So it's a place for me to kind of watch a little bit. Now, did I get stung with a couple trades, as I was playing this whole move? Remember, like, my thought process is here, right? We got our buy signal back here, basically when price retook the 5-period moving average, and I've been playing this move, until price has kind of given back and lost the 5-day moving average. So we've lost that, but all along, normally what happens for me is I make money all along the way, but on the very last tip of the move, sometimes I give back. I lose out on some trades as the market reverses. So that's the way it works for me. I don't time the top. I basically, I try to ride the trend for as long as it lasts. And without picking, I don't pick tops. I don't. Same thing on the bottoms too. I wait for a little bit of confirmation. So here's what my trading blotter looks like today. And again, I will share this with you. I'm not afraid to tell you that I got stopped out of a couple trades today. It happens. It's just part of the process. And the quicker that you could get used to this, right? And again, that's my process. I don't try to pick market, or short-term tops. I just, I make adjustments all along. So, a couple of things like I was wearing, I got out of my last Baidu. I also decided here, that where do I have this? I should have the explanation in here someplace. Yeah, so right around like after we bounced a little bit in the afternoon, there's a couple other swing trade positions that I had on that I started recently. Those were actually yesterday. BABA and FTNT, they moved too far down, uh, right? Because a lot of times, like I'm really using the value areas to map out, and if it doesn't work, like if it's not going to do what I thought it was going to do, then I just take the thing off. And here's the issue with this FTNT. I was looking for this VPOC to be taken out, but notice we're back inside value on the daily, and we're back inside value, or we're below value on the 1 hour as well. So if it would have held here, I would have added to it, and I actually mentioned that on private Twitter. I said not on private Twitter, but in the trading room, I said, hey, I'll add at 103, but the thing broke 103, retested, and failed. So I'll keep an eye on this name because I think it's a quality name in the space, and this group has had some good momentum to it. But if it breaks that far below and it breaks my support, then I don't want to add to. Yeah, I'd rather just get out of it and go on to a new trade. That's again my philosophy. Keeps me out of trouble, and I just kind of move on to the next trade. And again, monitoring these things are important. So a couple other things that we had talked about yesterday and the last couple days, because again, I never know when this is going to happen, but I had mentioned that a lot of these software plays and the cyber names have been going nuts. As a group, they got a bit overcrowded. So you have to pay attention to that type of thing. When the software group gets overcrowded, it can be very painful on the way down because it gets unwound. And we started to see things like I talked about how we started to see some bearish divergence in the Qs, especially when you look at those in terms of charts, right? So without going through all these, because I've gone over this already, but if you start to see a signal, lighten up your risk, and that's basically what I was talking about yesterday and in the weekend video, just to be careful of those software names, because if you load up on these software names, it can be very, very painful having to go and unwind them. Let's see if I can bring this down here. Nope, it's not letting me. I'm on a different laptop, so and there's no scroll bar. So can I do page down? Nope, it's not going to let me do it. Maybe if I do this. Qs. No, it's not even going to let me show it. But I will happy to post that chart. But that's something that I've been talking about before. Qs versus IWM, SPY versus IWM. There was a divergence there. So these Qs I think have gotten overcrowded. And again, you have to be careful of that. The other thing that we've realized that I pointed out in the room, and I pointed this out on Twitter too, is that I think some traders were kind of looking, because we were bouncing here a little bit from the lows, but you have that resistance right in front of you. So I saw this as traders were asking me to post some charts, and the 1 hour is always revealing to me. So we had broken the Qs, broke value, try to get back inside value, and that's a fail. So you have to really be, so you can play the bounce, but you got to know that you got to unwind it here. And there was about 4 or 5 different charts that I found, same exact thing. Like I was looking at Salesforce to play the dip in Salesforce. And I'll show you the difference. Right, so here's a move. Now this is nice. It took out a VPOC down here. Right, and that's usually where I want to add. But 152.70, so it's the exact same thing as the Qs. And literally, I saw this in Square too. It broke value, retested. So again, these are all different, different levels, different stocks, but it's the same pattern that they're getting rejected on trying to retake the trend, trying to get back into value. So again, MarketWeb's doing a phenomenal job at giving us, and what I said in the trading room too is that's the beauty of this system that we're using, is that it kind of helps you take the emotion out of it. Because I was looking at adding, like I said, Salesforce, and I'm like, geez, it's got to get back into value. I was actually looking to play the Qs too, and I'm like, that's not a place for me to try a trade, right? Once we firmly establish inside, yeah, that's fine. And like S&P looks better. And I'll tell you the name, so you could use this, right? You just have to be aware that if we break, you got this below. But look at the shop that we found. Great find by one of the traders in the room. But here's the shop chart, right? So look at the move into the top of value support, and that's a nice level to trade off of, and that's basically what we did. Here's my shop trades, and I also tried a little bit of Nvidia too. But I put that trade on. I was actually looking to sell a put spread, and the options were too wide. But I put that on at 1228, which is right in here, halfway through this bar, and we got a nice move in here. And I even took this trade off a little bit early. I didn't get all the way up to 600, I guess, is where the stock. But I was happy to scalp 20 points off of that. All right, so that's it. And the VIX closed at, if you kind of go to my spreadsheet and look at performance, one of the things that I did not like yesterday was the VIX getting back to, where is this thing now, 45. So should be telling you, right? This is not like a trade setup in the VIX. This is basically, as most traders just use the VIX as an indicator, not trying to trade the VIX. But just showing that, hey, volatility is kind of coming back here, and we'll see if it stalls out here. But it did move out of this, I guess you could say some type of like a wedge pattern or something like that. So it did move up, and here's my overall thought. I'll try to be a little bit more positive than I was yesterday and this morning. This morning, and I'm happy to provide the recording of this morning's pre-market session, I was basically saying, please open up your eyes and notice what's going on here, because I thought that the growth names would get run over today, as they did. But at this point, we've got a nice check back. This is um, nice to see that we've burned off some of those short-term overbought levels. Now let's see if we can hold the support, right? We got a nice check back into here. You've got some more doubt coming in onto the tape, which is good, because I think sentiment got too far ahead. Last week, option expiration was pretty crazy. That move at the end of the day on Friday was insane, right? And when you see insane moves like that, you take profits. And as I mentioned, I was in a PayPal swing trade, and I said, "Screw it! I'm taking this trade off. This is ridiculous." At the end of the day, Friday. So when the market gives you a gift like that, take it, and then you wait for the next opportunity. So that's the whole game plan, and we'll go from there. So again, a lot of things to talk about, and I think the rest of the week will be interesting, and I think will give us some really good trading opportunities to continue. And if you get stopped out of a trade, like I did a trade or two, it's not the end of the world. It's just part of the process. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.